I'm Director of Clinical Services for the Greater Houston area for Blue Sprig.
And what kind of services does Blue Sprig offer?
We provide ABA therapy services to children with autism.
Yeah, and how many locations do you have?
We have 13 in the Houston area right now.
Yeah, like we were talking about before we were on camera, that's really great that there's becoming more resources available to families with autism, because it feels like it wasn't that long ago when it was really hard to come by, right?
It was, and the more individuals who are getting diagnosed, the need is just continuing to rise. So we're really glad that we do have so many locations throughout the Houston area that we're able to support as many as possible.
What's the average age that people first come to you?
Probably around 4 to 5 years old, because that's when most are starting to get their diagnoses as they're beginning to enter into the school system, and they're noticing that maybe there are some differences between their child and some of the peers that they may have. But you are able to diagnose as young as 18 months to 2 years old by your pediatrician or by a developmental specialist or neurologist.
What would some of the symptoms be that a parent could first notice?
So as young as, like I said, 18 months old, you really could see differences in maybe communication is not quite there. They're starting to not babble as much as others their age. Eye contact may be a little less than what you would expect. Some individuals do have more of a flat affect also, so you're not going to see as big of a variety of facial expressions and emotions. It's also not uncommon to see some repetitive behaviors too, whether it's lining up items, repeatedly playing with the same toys, although we do know toddlers are very repetitive in what they do, but kind of just that increased amount, that fixation on certain things, staring at the ceiling fans, becoming more upset when things that are moving are stopped or taken away. But every individual is going to be different. But if you start to notice any of those types of delays, that's when you do want to speak to your pediatrician to have them complete a screener for autism.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the benefit of doing ABA therapy early?
The younger you are, the more sponge-like your brain is, the more moldable your skills are. So you haven't had that history of learning kind of those coping strategies to be able to get your needs met. So prior to having behaviors that may be less effective or may be potentially harmful as well, we're able to intervene before those are established so that we can help better with the trajectory of your development and your learning. And it actually does change the structure of your developmental portions of your brain as you're going when you do have that intervention younger versus letting them already connect.
Yeah, very well said. What about we were talking on set earlier about the things that people should know or maybe surprised to learn about people with autism, and you mentioned a couple of things that sounded more like misconceptions too. Can you tell me more about what people might be surprised to know?
I think the vast expansion of the spectrum is a little bit surprising to some, because they do see what is reflected on media with TV shows where we see people who are savants, and autism can come with its own set of special skills due to your high interest in a particular topic. But we do have the other end of the spectrum, and we do have a little bit more than a quarter of individuals who are diagnosed that aren't able to speak to communicate their wants and needs. And so really focusing in on the intensive services for that population too, and helping to really expand awareness for them so that we can increase, whether it's the accessibility that we have, the familiarity with those in the community, being able to know, oh, this is how I need to interact with this individual. These are the considerations that I need to take into place so that we're able to create an environment that everyone's able to participate and benefit from.
Can you think of any examples of what that would be?
There's actually a playground up in the Woodlands that I know that has a communication board as part of the playground, so that when you do have individuals who aren't able to speak, they're able to go and use this visual to request all of the different activities on the playground that they want to participate in.
Oh, really?
They do.
That's great, yeah.
And there are other places, whether it may be training police officers. We do have an individual that works with Blue Sprig who's done multiple trainings with police officers and conversations about this is the sign to look out for an individual who may have autism, and what the most appropriate way would be to interact, to be able to reach out for help so that their behaviors don't get misconstrued as refusal or being uncooperative.
Great examples, yeah. Have you heard of Howdy Homemade Ice Cream too?
I have not.
It's a ice cream shop in Katy who hires all people with autism.
That's wonderful.
And yeah, one of the employees told me she loves how much patience people have when she doesn't have to explain that she has autism. So yeah, it's a really cool place too. What about, we talked about for any parents who are watching who have a child with autism, tips for birthday parties, tips for summer travel. Can you list any of those?
So knowing your child and their needs is what's going to be best. If you know that they're someone who is sensitive to lights, to sounds, try and make accommodations for those. Prepare ahead for those if you are preparing for travel, whether it's getting a pair of sunglasses, if you need to have headphones prepared for them. Also being able to know if they're likely to be someone who's going to take off and run. You know you're going to prepare to get there so you can practice having those opportunities to work your way through the airport. Some airlines actually do have annual visits where they don't actually take off, but they do navigate the tarmac and then come back to the gate so they can have those practice opportunities. So you can check out various airline websites to find out when they're hosting those as well.
Yeah, definitely look for that. That's a really good tip. I like that one. What about if a family was expecting a new baby? How would you prepare a sibling who has autism?
Letting them be as involved as possible, providing just education like you would with any other individual. There may be, as that child ages and the newborn baby ages, some conversations that may need to be had when questions come up of why is there a difference. But as far as the actual preparation for it, you're going to know your child best and how much it is that they're going to be able to assist you with the new baby. Any other considerations you may need to take if they are someone who is sensitive to having other sounds, or if they are someone who is needing to be watched more often than other children who may have a new baby. And so being able to really expand your network of resources that you have and be able to have other people as involved as possible will be a great benefit.
Very good. That's a really good point about siblings when they're starting to notice that there's a difference. I have a friend who said she first saw it hit her son in a grocery store when he was watching another family with a brother and sister who were interacting, and she said she saw it like dawning on him that my brother's different. So what would some conversations be like? Like, do you have any tips for navigating a conversation like that? Like what kind of language a parent should use about like, yeah, this is what our family looks like.
I think the most important things that parents can do is to spread the message of acceptance and to be able to indicate, we need to be an advocate for your sibling whenever they're not able to advocate for themselves. Or if they are able to, be their champion, be the person who's going to help support them and have their back. The more individuals that we can develop in society and teach how to be accepting and be supportive of those who are different, the better our society as a whole will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right about that. I appreciate your positivity. I like it. I think society is moving in a really good direction. I think at first it's a scary diagnosis because of where we've come from, but the direction that society's moving, I think, can be a really positive one for families with autism.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be scary. It's just a different experience. You're going to have to pull different resources and educate yourselves on some things that you need to maybe familiarize a little bit more with. But growing up, having a kid with autism, it's just another great experience.